Drag racing has had many heroes, men and women whose deeds and accomplishments have added color to the sport's rich and varied tapestry. Yet there is one man who stands out from the rest, a man whose name has become synonymous with the sport, a man whose special charisma always ignites crowds. Like the fabled gunfighters of the Old West, he has squarely faced the challenges of man and time, constantly forced to prove again and again that he's number one. He's accumulated nicknames over the years, Swamp Rat, Tampa Don, but to the world, he is best known as Big Daddy Don Garlits. Through a career that has spanned more than 3 decades, Don Garlits has accomplished more than any other Top Fuel driver. More records set, more races won. He has strived throughout his career to follow his own path, always openly expressing his beliefs and convictions, succeeding on his own terms. He's built a legend for himself that started in the mid-50s with his famed Swamp Rat 1, the first of his famous black cars. This car and its immediate successors laid the groundwork for his long and colorful career. Always, his actions and his innovative thinking helped shape the growing sport of drag racing. In 1963, Garlits won his first National Hot Rod Association event, the Winter Nationals, and began his reign as the king of Top Fuel. Join us today as we relive with Don Garlits his legendary career. Hello, I'm Steve Evans, and this is the shop where Don Garlits builds and maintains his famous Swamp Rat race cars. In 1984, it seemed that Don was no longer serious about big-time drag racing. Oh, he was out there for sure, match racing, even an occasional NHRA national event appearance. But he seemed content to let the Becks and the Amatos and the Muldowneys of the world fight it out for the major titles, because he was expending all of his energy on building the first museum of drag racing here in Ocala, Florida, and on this same 16 acres, building a house for wife Pat and himself. In August of '84, the museum had opened to rave reviews, the house was ready to move into, and the timing was perfect for old friend and former partner Art Malone to come along. And Art brought with him the latest in engine parts and pieces, and the suggestion that the two old warriors team up again and head off for the 30th anniversary NHRA US Nationals at Indianapolis. Don hadn't been there for 5 years. Well, to be honest, there were some who scoffed at the idea of a 52-year-old man taking a 4-year-old race car off the museum floor and trying to win the biggest drag race in the world. When the smoke had cleared, nobody was laughing. Don Garlits had won his 6th U.S. Nationals Top Fuel title. Let's meet the greatest drag racer of them all, the one they call Big Daddy, Don Garlits. Don, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Well, it's nice of you to come by, Steve.
You won the U.S. Nationals, then you headed west, a victory at the World Finals to back it up. Had to be a very special 2 months.
It really was. You know, it's, well, you know, everybody thought that I was all through and I had really retired from competitive drag racing. I did a little drag racing now and then, of course, when Art came along, you know, that's a dear old friend from a long time ago. Well, we rode the school bus together when we were kids. So when Art called up and said, let's go to Indy, and what are you going to need in extra parts? And he came through with the money. I was just really excited. But I really didn't think we'd go up there to win the race. I just wanted to make a real good showing.
In the victory interview that you and I did, you seemed stunned by it all.
Thank you, Steve. I've had a wonderful weekend and I've enjoyed myself tremendously. It's been great to be back.
It's great to have you back, and we look forward next year to a new car, aerodynamics, the kind of thinking only you bring to this sport.
Well, I hope so. Art has injected a lot of, you know, it's given me enthusiasm to have him come along and put the money where most people's mouth is and get me here and buy the parts so we're capable of performing with these people, which proves that you just got to have the technology. I was surprised that the 4-year-old car came through, and of course you have to have a lot of brakes in drag racing too. You know, we got a few brakes. Amato spun his tires when he was racing one of the other cars, and he was really very fast at the race. We had the top speed, but that ET's what wins the races.
And the fans in California, they were waiting for you. Sold the place out.
Goodness gracious, that Pomona was just unbelievable.
Don, this is the latest car, but what was the first car you ever went down a drag strip in?
It's a little 40 Ford convertible. I drove it to high school, and of course drag racing really fit my needs real well because you could go with the same car you drove on the street, in opposed to round track racing where you had to have an extra car. And we went up to Zephyr Hills with this little car. We used to race like once a month. I have one in the museum. It's not the very one, but it's one just like it.
Let's have a look.
Okay.
I can't wait to see the museum, the whole thing. Don, let's let this car take us back to the late 40s. It was in high school that you first became interested in cars?
Yes, it was. You know, I was taking accounting in school, and so I really didn't think anything about cars, but the older boys came to school and they had the cut down cars and stuff, and I was really caught up in it, and I was, you know, it was something I really loved. And then on top of that, I took a General Metals class in my senior year, and the teacher came to school with one of those real early issues of Hot Rod magazine, and golly, we wore the pages out to class looking at it. And then, of course, I started drag racing on the street because all of the guys were doing it, and I had my 40 convertible, and we didn't have drag strips then. There weren't any.
And out of high school, you pursued that accounting interest?
Yes, I did. I was about 6 months working in one of the large department stores in Tampa, but I was really unhappy, and it was my stepfather who said, you know, Don, you know, you should get into the automobile business. Says that's what you really love, and says, you know, you could waste your whole life doing something that you don't like.
So you served an apprenticeship, as I recall, with a paint and body shop, and then opened your own shop.
Yes, I did. I worked for several years just learning the trade, and then in 1956, my wife and I opened our own shop, which was a paint and body shop. It really wasn't even a speech. It was Don's Garage.
This was your street racer. What was the first car you actually won a race in?
The first car, well, my wife and I were going over to Lake Wales to the Singing Tower. We had no idea of anything to do with going to a drag. In fact, I had taken off about a year and hadn't drag raced at all during our courtship. And here was a little sign was just kind of written on a piece of paper. It said drags and had an arrow pointing to the Lake Wales airport. And I said, honey, let's run over to the drags and see what's happening. And we entered the 50 Ford in the race and won the very first trophy that I ever won in drag racing. A little tiny plastic thing with a little gold girl standing on the top of it.
But that set the hook.
That was it. I was hooked, and it was a few months later we had cams and dual carburetors on the 50 and boring it out and stroke crankshafts, and it was over.
Was there a guy out there that everybody wanted to beat, kind of the Fonz of that era?
Yes, there was. There was Charlie Hogan. They called him King Hogan. He was at the Lake Wales drag strip that day, and he won top eliminator with a V12 Lincoln engine powered old Ford Roadster, like a 27T or something. And he was just absolutely idolized by everyone. And of course, as I went back to the drags and built roadsters, I got a roadster, first a coupe and then a roadster. And finally, I couldn't beat them, and I had to just keep chopping it down and getting it lighter and lighter. And first thing you know, we were almost pure dragsters. And I finally did outrun him, but it was it took about a year. Right after we outran Hogan for the top eliminator, then the National Hot Rod Association was starting to gain some prominence, and they came through Florida with what they called a drag safari. Not a safety safari, it was a drag. They put on these drag races, regionals. And we went up there and won that race with this little flathead dragster. And they had a party. We were in a car club. We had a car club then called the Strokers, and they had this party in my honor, for I was the only one that had won anything in the whole club. And then one guy got up there and said, well, he says, I guess this means you're going to retire now from drag racing. You've won top eliminator at the state level, and that's as high as you can ever go, and so this will probably be it. I remember that well.
Don, any lad that achieved the status of Eagle Scout, as you did, is never going to lose those merit badges. But your childhood marbles, now that's a sign of either a collector or a pack rat.
Well, I guess it's a pack rat. And really, that's why the museum is in existence, because my dad was a pack rat, and I guess I am, and that's why we have so many of these cars. I just refuse to throw anything away.
You collect stamps since 1948.
Yeah, my dad was a stamp collector, and he passed that on to me. And of course, the Boy Scouting, I really like that because, we got out into the country and got to work with our hands. If you'll notice the badges, the biggest portion of them are things that you do with your hands.
Up in the house, a collection of piggy banks, a whole one wall.
Yeah, that's my wife and I don't know, a number of years ago we picked up one, and it was kind of interesting, and first thing you know, we got 100. So.
Well, there's no question that you are a multi-dimensional person.
Well, that's a compliment, and I appreciate it.
Well, Don, of course, there was the old flathead car that beat King Hogan, but in '56 you built this, and this was really your first race car and the car that made you a professional.
That's right. This was my Hemi engine. That was the big deal. A lot of people said the flatheads would rule forever, and I didn't think so. I got this Hemi, and it was a very, very powerful car.
Was this the first car you ran nitromethane in?
No, I had nitromethane in the flathead, 25%. And of course, we only ran 25% in this car until I met Cook and Bedwell, and they showed me how to put 98% in it.
Old Emery Cook.
Oh, he was really a fine guy. He helped me. And Cliff Bedwell, he just really had a fit because Emery was showing me how to fix my carburetors, and Cliff didn't want him to.
And they were the kings of the West Coast, and you were becoming the king of the East, and there was that rivalry there.
Yeah, and Cliff says, he'll be outrunning you with the stuff you're telling him.
True story.
And sure enough, on race day, we did.
Let's see, this was the first car to go 170, right?
Yes, it was.
And?
180 and 190.
And it was the first car that somebody was willing to pay to get to the racetrack instead of just prize money.
That's right. In June of 1958, prior to that, we'd either run for posted prize money or trophies. They actually called me from Wichita Falls, Texas, and hired me to come down and run their race, and advertised I was coming and made a lot of money on it, and so consequently, a lot of other strips jumped on the bandwagon.
In March 1959, Don Garlits headed west for what would be the biggest challenge to date in his professional career, the first annual U.S. Gas and Fuel Championship, the famed Bakersfield March Meet, and subsequent meets in Kingdon, California, and Chandler, Arizona. For Garlits, the West Coast meets were an opportunity to prove he could compete on the same level as the California racers. For the West Coast drivers, the meets offered a chance to shut down on home tracks the Hot Shot from Tampa, Florida.
Now, this car, and I was there, high school senior, 1959, Bakersfield, California. You came west for the first time ever, and the big guns were waiting for you. Yeah,
it was, they put the superchargers on, and they'd gotten the M&H tires. If they had like a month earlier, before the superchargers and M&H tires, this car would have beaten all of the guys leading the first race at Bakersfield, but it was a little outclassed with the blowers and the big tires.
Have you ever seen anything like that 59 Bakersfield? There were people everywhere. There were cars going 150 in the pits. It was madness. It was a Woodstock of drag racing.
There's never been a race like it before or since, and you're right. The cars were backed up way down the road. There were strangers collecting money from people in cars for tickets, and they had nothing to do with the race. There was a pickup truck at the gate, was full of money.
And they'd just drop it on the floor of the truck and mash it.
And they were shoveling it into garbage bags. It was an incredible thing. In the pits, there were so many beer cans, you had to have somebody go in front of the car to kick them out of the way.
And that was all done with no advertising. It was word of mouth, and that's the first time the crowds from all the various drag strips came together in one place.
It is. It made Bakersfield, California famous.
You bet. You know, you were a little humiliated that day in Bakersfield, but the very next weekend you showed up with the supercharger just like they did.
at Kingdom, and we won the race and set new records up there. And then the following week, we went over to Chandler, Arizona, almost the site of the new fancy Firebird International Raceway, and we won there and went an 8:45, beating the Howard Cam's car in the final.
You came to Bakersfield as really the out-of-state invader. The fans were even a little rude to you.
Yes, they were. They were throwing stuff at us and hollering Dan garbage and stuff like that.
But you made some friends ultimately.
Oh, yeah. Some of my dearest friends ended up from California. In fact, one of the guys that we were really competitors with in those days, Jack Ewell, who has since passed away, became one of my dearest friends. Never missed a drag race that wasn't on the crew when I was out there.
You pulled to the starting line for the first race. I think it was Tom McEwen and Ruby Race, and you had sunglasses on. I never forget it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I got that from Emery Cook. He drove in sunglasses and just a hat, and I thought, well, that's just exactly what I would do. And you see some of the old pictures sitting around, and that's what I was wearing.
You know, Don, sports writers like to use the word slump, right, for a baseball player who's not hitting, a quarterback who's not throwing completed passes. Well, you found out what a slump is like in, what, 66, 67?
Yes, I had moved from Tampa to Detroit. We went up there to do a lot of work for Chrysler, and then we didn't like the weather, and we moved back to Florida. And I was running the same car, and of course I was running the 426 that Chrysler had just come out with the new Hemi, and Wins had stepped up their sponsorship. The cars were called Wins Chargers. And 2 races in a row, 2 national events, the Winter Nationals and the Spring Nationals held in Bristol, Tennessee. We had failed to qualify.
How embarrassing that must have been for you and the crew.
It was terrible. And so at Bristol, we decided, we looked at the cars, and everybody was running the new lightweight, the spidery cars. And the team and I decided to come home and build a new car, and we built this car in 72 hours. It's often called the 72-hour wonder.
This is it?
This is the very one. And it's just really lightweight with no full body. And there were some new things on the engine, also the 426 that we were finding out, and we used those. And the very first time out, this car beat the famous Hawaiian, which was one of the fastest cars of that era.
Now, I remember when you were just so down, it wasn't because you weren't working hard. In fact, you were working so hard, you weren't even taking the time to shave. Now, the rumor was that you weren't going to shave till you ran in the 6s. Was that true?
Well, that was true. That's where it was at the end. In the beginning, it was a fact that we went all the way from Bristol to Tampa, built the car, and back to race the Hawaiian in Muncie, Indiana, from a Sunday afternoon to a Saturday night. And so we didn't shave. We were only like sleeping 2 and 3 hours a night. And so we got up there, and it was time for the race, and it wasn't even really time to shave before the race. So then we won the race, and we were so elated over how the car ran. We thought, well, we won't shave off our beards. It was the whole team is what it was. It wasn't just me. I was the one who got all the publicity. Until the car ran in the 6s. But it just didn't run in the 6s right away. It was like 701s and 702s. And the 6 didn't actually come until the final round at Indianapolis for the U.S. Nationals.
Which was the second race on this car.
It's the second major race, right.
James Warren was your opponent in the final round. It was, everyone was on their feet. I remember the race so well.
It was an exciting, dramatic race. I remember I have pictures of it, pulled way over toward the center to get out of the speedy dry. It wasn't rice ash then. And there was even some rolled up on the tires, and I remember reaching out and wiping it off the tires as I went up to stage. And it was a really super close race. And I just barely beat James, but it was really a super comeback because the Fram Corporation was filming a documentary which was shown on national television. And of course everybody said, well, Big Daddy's back, and we got lots of bookings and so forth.
Well, I wasn't real happy with you because I was working for ABC Wide World of Sports, and we went to the winner's circle, which was down by the finish line. We waited and we waited. We saw this commercial in the starting line. It was you shaving your beard off at the starting line, and we missed the whole deal.
I really, to this day, don't know why we did come back to the starting line. I know we pushed down the track, and usually, you turned off to go to the winner's circle, and for some reason, we didn't, whether it was the crowd or somebody was directing what. We ended up back on the starting line. Of course, the crowd destroyed my truck. You know, they crawled up all over it, and they stole the Christmas tree. It was an unbelievable thing.
Through mid-1959, Don Garlits toured the country in a series of match races. On June 10th, 1959, Garlits was in Chester, South Carolina for a race. During a practice run, Garlits experienced the explosive danger of the front-engine dragster for the first time. A manifold ruptured, and Garlits found himself in the center of an inferno. With third-degree burns on his face, neck, arms, hands, and legs, Garlits contemplated his first retirement from drag racing.
You come back from that first West Coast tour in '59. Boy, you thumped those California guys good. You're on top of the world. Every little track in the country wants to book you. You got a career going here. The Chester Fire. Without Art Malone, you were finished.
That's right. You know, we were selling all the parts. The engines had been sold, and Malone come up to the hospital there in Tampa. Tampa General says, you know, I'd like to drive your car for you. And I thought, well, you know, he can't drive one of these cars. And I said, Art, you've only driven round tracks. He says, well, I'd like to have a shot at it. As soon as you get out of the hospital, he says, I'd like to see if I could handle it. So I carried him over to Kissimmee, and I'll be darned if he didn't take to that thing like a duck to water. And he made about 5 passes there, just test runs, and we went straight up to a match race that I had booked in Sanford, Maine.
And you're all bandaged up?
I'm all bandaged up, and on his 3rd pass, he sets the drag news record. Broke the record that I had set at Houston prior to the fire.
A natural.
He was a natural.
Well, those injuries of yours were so severe that you had quit. You told, that's it, it's over, right?
Yeah, I actually did not race for over a year.
And they came close to taking your hand off.
I'm real close to taking my hand off. In the Chester Hospital, the doctor wanted to remove my hand, and my wife wouldn't sign the surgery, and my mother wouldn't sign it. They came to me. I said, I'd rather die, and the doctor says, get out of my hospital.
Huh?
Yeah, and so my wife called Tampa General, and they had a real good, Dr. Cullen was there, and he was a burn specialist for hands. He'd done a lot of hands from Korea. He took one look at him and says, we don't have to take those hands off. He says, we're in good shape, we can save them, and the living proof he did.
Well, I know you and Malone are friends again. We talked about that. But there was a breakup there. It didn't last very long.
No, he drove for me till July of 1960, and then Malone he had ideas of his own, and he wanted to build a different car. We were running Swamp Rat 1, which was Chevy frame rails. Malone wanted molly tube and lightweight stuff because he was heavy, and he realized that he had to get a light car. And he did. He built a new car, him and Al Williams, at the Scientific Engineering place in Kansas, and it ran quite well. Malone won a lot of races and he did great on his own.
What caused the breakup?
Well, he wanted to build a new car, and I didn't want to build a new car. I couldn't afford to build a new car. I was the one who was responsible for the money. Malone just got paid to drive it. It was either a new car or he wasn't driving anymore, and I just literally couldn't afford it.
And you told Pat, I'm getting back in the seat. That couldn't have been a pleasant moment.
She nearly had a fit. And wouldn't you know, the very first run at Dunkirk, New York, the thing burst into flames right in my face on the first run. Of course, I had on fire protection. I didn't get hurt. But, you know, that's really, it's traumatizing.
And in that old car, you were so vulnerable to fire.
It was terrible. It could come from the bottom. Because later at a test session out in Tampa, we used to go out to the Golden Triangle drag strip and test. I went out there one afternoon and they kicked a rod out and the fire came up through the bottom and burned my legs. Worse than the Chester fire. And there was no ambulance, nothing. We were just out there. One of the guys brought me home in the station wagon, and I come in, my clothes were burned off of me practically from the waist down, and my wife was just rabid. And we had to drive ourselves to the hospital. And no insurance, nothing, you know. I told the doctor the next morning, I got to go home. I said, I got work to do. He said, if you go home, Big Daddy, I'm not going to be responsible for you. And I said, well, I don't think you're going to be responsible for me anyway, so I'm going to the house.
Don, after the Golden Triangle fire, you were broke, burned up, bandaged. You had to get home to try to make some money. You couldn't race. Where was the money going to come from?
Well, we had been building Swamp Rat 3. Connie Swingle and myself, he'd come into the shop a young, aspiring
What a
mechanic, and he'd went out on the road with me on several of the match races, and he wanted to drive really bad, so I was letting him drive Swamp Rat 1. So he had made quite a few runs in it and was pretty good. And so Swamp Rat 3 was sitting down there on the garage floor, and I was really kind of upset about the Swamp Rat 1. It was really kind of dangerous the way the firewalls and all were constructed.
Once burned, as they say.
Yeah, and where Swamp Rat 3 had protection against that kind of stuff, had windshields on it and lower belly pans and stuff. So I told Swingle, I said, Swingle, put the engine in Swamp Rat 3, put it on the trailer, go to Detroit, do the match race in York, Pennsylvania. There was about 3 or 4 of them he had to do. So he went out and did them, and I stayed there at the shop because I just wasn't able to travel. I was burned. That fire came from underneath, burned me all on the back of my legs. Could not sit in a truck seat for any long amount of time. And so from that point on, Swingle drove the fuel car until I drove a fuel car in 1963 at Pomona.
So this was not really a retirement. You intended when you were able to get back into the car?
Yes. I didn't think that I was going to quit completely, but Swingle had done such a good job, I just didn't get bothered to get back racing. But the more he raced, the more harder he got to be able to control him. He was wild,
Well, I saw him on the West Coast when he came out to race J.L. Payne and Vance Hunt for the #1 spot, and he was something.
Yeah.
You didn't forget him after you
No,
raced.
that's a fact.
You even refer to yourself as Big Daddy. Where did that come from?
Bernie Partridge did that, 1962, Indianapolis.
My old friend, the announcer.
Yeah, gasoline, all gas that time, and I just went to work for Chrysler, and they wanted me to run one of the wedge engines on gas in national competition. Of course, we were running the Swamp Rats at that particular time. Swingle was driving Swamp Rat 3 on fuel for me. So Archie Liederbrand and I built Swamp Rat 4 and went up to Indy on gasoline, and we had that baby lightened. I mean, it was lightweight. But we had the axles lightened too much. And so every time we'd go up to the starting line, it'd break an axle. And just back to the pit. So finally after we broke all our trick axles, all we had left was just some old stockers, which we put in there. And then it went real good. And Bernie just blurted out over the PA, well, it looks like Big Daddy's got a handle on this gas. And that's the first time I'd ever heard it. And why he said it, I don't know, but the Indianapolis Star picked it up, and they carried a story on Big Daddy, and we still had Swamp Rat written all over the cars. And so that went on for a number of years, and first thing you know, I started using it, started painting it on stuff, and then in '69 I registered because it had really become a nice nickname for me.
That's your trademark.
Yeah, we have it registered, and we use it on everything. And it's in fact of the matter is, in the general public, I can ask somebody, they'll say, "Well, don't I know you?" And I'll say Don Garlits, and you can still see the question in their eyes. Then you say, "How about Big Daddy?" "Oh yeah, I've heard of Big Daddy." It's amazing how that has really clicked with the general public.
The Swamp Rat nickname, though, that was hurled at you as an insult.
Yes, it was. I never to this day really know whether it was a real mean one or kind of a half-jokingly one, trying to get publicity. Later, Soto Pastoian did that. He wrote an ad in Drag News, and he said, "It's no wonder they call you Swamp Rat. You're in this business for what you can get," and says, "You don't care how you make a buck at it. You put a green kid in the biggest dragster that you could think of, ta-da, ta-da."
Sound like he's beating the drum for a match race.
I kind of think it was. I don't think, because he always was real nice, and even later in years, we became partners in the Detroit operation. I don't think that Soto really meant anything really nasty about it, but he really made it sound that way. And I'll tell you that the tracks loved it. They did. They called up and wanted match races between the two of us.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've heard others in Tampa, Don, the old man, affectionately meant. I know a guy that calls you a father who weren't in Florida.
Yeah, that was written on somebody's scoop somewhere.
That's right.
mentioned earlier you'd been taking power out of the engine. What do you do now as Rob Bruins will no doubt put you in that right-hand lane for the final?
I'll tune for that lane.
Is it possible as it cools off that that lane could get a little better?
You can win this race out of that lane.
With what tactic?
I don't want to talk about that.
You did it, the right lane, just like you said you would.
Well, I smoked the tires, and he had me. And I'll be darned if he didn't go out of control and nearly cross the center line, and that's all I needed, and it just gathered him right up.
You know, going into this event, I've never seen so many of the supposed experts pick one guy. Everybody says they're not going to beat Big Daddy on this racetrack. He's just too crafty.
It was a racetrack that needed a lot of experience, no question about it.
The word your fellow racers use the most to describe you is crafty. Everybody's saying, boy, that Don is crafty. How about a driving trick that you were using that no one else knew about?
Well, one of the things before the days of the Christmas tree was the flag start was you really had to get off. And of course, they had flags on buttons then, so there was still some electronics involved. But I used to watch the guy's arm right here. He'd hold the flag down, and I'd watch that, and you'd see that arm twitch there before the flag would actually move. And that was, later I heard other guys had done that. But that was one of my tricks that I used to like for getting off the gate just right. The Christmas tree, of course, that was a difficult device. You had to time yourself just right, you know, all those bulbs flashing down. And it wasn't a driving trick so much, but it was a trick for the car was the offset front wheels. You know, I came up with them to get a little more roll out.
Yeah, we could stagger them 2 inches.
Staggered them, and that gave you more roll, and that lets you leave sooner on the bulbs.
I've heard stories that you actually used to use the brake down the racetrack.
Oh, I still do that. That'll bring you out of a wheel stand to this day. But in the days of the smoking tires, you could run out with the tires smoking, just touch the brake with spots. Now, you had to have spot brakes, couldn't have shoe brakes because they're self-energizing. But the spots braking, you just pull that smoke down just a little bit, and that car just accelerate away from you. It's unbelievable.
A lot of people said this track at this point wouldn't hold anything as quick as a 572, but you again have proved them wrong.
Yeah, we were going the wrong way. Everybody else was too. We decided to do something different.
And?
It picked right up.
What was it?
Well, I ain't gonna...
Speed Secrets?
Speed Secrets, they'll come right. They can all do it in just about 5 minutes if they knew what it was.
Okay, Big Daddy thinks he's got the trick that'll take to win this.
How about a mechanical trick? Just some little deal that you had and you just chuckled to yourself wondering how long it was going to take for him to figure it out.
Well, the first mechanical trick, and that's what brought on the body on the front of Swamp Rat 1, was the great big fuel lines. I realized when I watched Cook and Bedwell run that they had to pump the tank up in the middle of the course because it run down. Well, they didn't have enough fuel flow through the half-inch line, so I had a great big 1-inch line up front, and so we covered it all up with body and hid it in the frame rails, and that was on there for a couple of years before Seto picked up on it.
Anything else mechanically that had them scratching their heads?
Well, you know, well, okay. We're looking right at the car. This car has port nozzles.
Sure.
And we had port nozzles for years, and nobody knew it because the line going into the back of the manifold goes to a fuel block underneath. And unless you take the manifold off, you can't see the port nozzles, but they're all down there.
Well, just now when you said it had port nozzles, I looked and I thought, no, it doesn't. So yeah. This line here?
That's the port nozzles, and people used to wonder, what's that line going in there for? And that goes to port nozzles. See, I had port nozzles on Swamp Rat 1. I have the original set of port nozzles, the very first in the industry, and I realized then it was important to have that fuel distribution.
You are crafty, Big Daddy.
There's a few other ones that are crafty, too.
Don Garlits trivia fans would accuse me of not having done my homework if I didn't at least mention that at one time in the 60s you had a super stock car.
That's true. It was a Dodge. We got 62 Dodge, and then even a 63. And we actually went and raced Nicholson and Maverick and all the guys with it.
Did you drive it?
I drove it lots of times, yes. And then I had a couple of other guys that liked to drive it too. Even my wife even drove it. There's trophies over in the case that she won in it.
Well, this 39 Ford, she drove a lot.
Yes, she did. This was a car that we built together right after we got married. It had a Chrysler Hemi in it and a Lincoln transmission and tuck and roll. And I put the big back window in it so that she could see out back. You know, these Fords had little bitty windows,
sure.
And she was short.
There was your brother's Ed gas car.
Swamp Rat 2.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, what else? You know, like any good inventor, okay? Anybody you want to mention, Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, not everything they built worked. And not everything big has worked. There's a couple here that didn't burn up the dragster.
Isn't that the truth? We got a streamliner sitting over here on the other side that was supposed to go 275 miles an hour, and at 165 it flew. And then we had to retire that after just a very few runs. I have a turbine car over here with a helicopter motor in it that was supposed to go 275 miles an hour. It went to 219. It didn't have as much horsepower as they said it did. Had a sidewinder is going to revolutionize the world. And it got a lot of ink, but it only went 230 miles an hour, and that's not quite good enough.
Pardon me if I tell you that the, quote, funny car that Emery Cook drove was not my personal favorite.
Well, but that wasn't a failure in that sense of the word. It was fast. It was so fast, in fact, at the time that set on a dragster chassis, plastic body. It wasn't factory, and so the guys wouldn't race us after about 6 months. And of course, we retired it, and they soon built tubing chassis and plastic bodies.
March 8, 1970, Lions Drag Strip, Long Beach, California. Disaster again strikes Don Garlits. A transmission explosion as he leaves the line in the finals cuts his car in half and severs his right foot. Determined to find a solution to the problems posed by the front-engine dragster, Garlits sets in motion one of drag racing's greatest revolutions, the dawn of the age of the rear-engine top-fuel car.
Steve, this car is one of my favorites, if not the favorite, because this is the rear-engine car. It's a needle-nose thing from the front to the back. You stand in front of it and look at it. It looks right. It looks like it ought to be a race car.
This was the first contemporary rear-engine car that changed the sport.
Yes, it is. It's the first one that qualified at a national event and won the event.
I think the most frightening still photograph I've ever seen was of the clutch explosion in that front motor car at Lions. Had that explosion not happened, would the rear-engine dragster have evolved anyway without that accident on your part?
I think it would have. I just think that it would have been probably 3 or 4 years down the road. But sooner or later, somebody would have put one together, and the cars were getting longer and the clutches were getting right. This was one of the things that did help my development. The technology of the sport had come to a point where it was possible to do it. And of course, that became more so all the time. So what would have happened? There'd have been some more guys killed, and finally somebody would have said, look, I'm sick of this, I'm going to do it. And it would have happened. It just wouldn't have happened quite as fast. Because what makes something like that really take place is for somebody like the Snake or Tom McEwen or Gary Beck or somebody, one of the front runners, to take a project and put their heart into it. And what was happening before was guys that weren't really that type of a racer were building the cars, and they were trying funny deals. Most of them, all of them had funny front tires or funny drives.
Yeah.
They were strange machines. They weren't really conventional type cars with just the driver in front.
Conceived in a hospital room between reruns of Star Trek.
That's right. Me and McEwen up there watching them. Tom used to come up every day and visit me. He was really a great moral boost during that morale booster during that recuperation period.
Do you think it was fate that brought about that accident? You were the guy, the only guy that could save drivers from further injury in those incredible front-engine machines that should have never been built in the first place.
I don't know, it's, was just as guilty as the next guy of taking the slingshots to the point that they were. I was the one that was pioneering transmissions in them and setting over them with my feet.
That's what exploded.
It's exactly right. And so I guess it was a kind of a poetic justice that I'd be the guy that get his foot blown off and have to get his nose to the grindstone.
Well, you know, your story rings of accident, retirement, comeback. Accident, retirement, comeback. No thought of retirement after the worst injury yet?
No, on this one I was really mad. Here I'd lost part of my foot in a stupid accident, and all I could think about was getting out of the hospital and building some kind of a car that would eliminate this problem from the sport forever.
What about Pat?
Well, now, she had a different idea, and so did my mom. They really were heavy on my case about not driving anymore.
You know, when you were building this car, and you know how rumors spread like wildfire in this sport, and everybody knew it, and the word was, Big Daddy's finally gone berserk.
Yeah, two particular cases that really stand out on that was Jerry Tiffin from Goodyear Tire and Rubber. He called me on the phone. He says, Bud, he says, don't you know that every rear-engine car that was ever built turned right or left in the lights? And I said, yeah, I knew that. And then another one, they were having a Dodge seminar in Clearwater, and one of the guys in the audience held up his hand and asked the guy up there, one of the Ram Chargers, he says, what do you think about Big Daddy's rear-engine car he's building over in Sefner? And the Ram Charger told him, says, we think he's bit off a little more than he can chew this time.
It went right to the West Coast and thumped him again.
Well, did you ever hear the story about coming in the gate? We went to the AHRA race first, the very race, in fact, that I had blew my foot off the year before. And so they thought, well, we'll park this thing right out at the front gate so everybody that comes in can see it. So there we were working on it, and we were actually putting it together because we had brought the slingshot, the last slingshot out here to the coast to give to Goodyear for the shows, and we were, and the rear engine car had been brought out in pieces. So there we were assembling the rear engine car in the pits at Lyons, and in comes the snake. And he looked at that thing and he laughed. He said, well, he says, I'll give you credit for one thing. He says, it's one way to get ink. And down to the pits he goes.
But the Winter Nationals, just a few weeks old, this car, there's photos of it around here. No wing on it at that time, which I always wondered about. But you won that race, and you just glowed all over when I saw it.
Well, I was really proud of the thing, and it's with the visibility, you know, you got to understand, I'd had years and years behind the blowers of the slingshot, and I had plenty of fires and plenty of oil, and I was seeing little bitty bolts and nuts on the drag strip in this thing going down course, and it was a wonderful feeling.
You know, there was not a front-engine car left 18 months after this debut. There was not an active front-motor car in the sport.
I know even at 6 months there was only a couple left. A couple of the diehards just wouldn't get them, but it's true, it did. It wiped out the slingshot, and I was happy for it too because it sure made it a lot safer for Top Fuel.
Despite numerous National Hot Rod Association victories over the years, until 1975, Don Garlits had never won the NHRA Top Fuel World Championship. Coming into Ontario Motor Speedway, Ontario, California that year, only one man, Gary Beck, had a chance to rob Garlits of his dream of being the world champion. With one run, Garlits became the first person to go over 250 miles per hour, set an elapsed time record of 5.63 seconds that would stand for 7 years, and won the World Championship.
Don, on October 12th, 1975, did you have any feeling when you got up that Sunday morning and headed for Ontario Motor Speedway that the day would have that kind of impact on you and drag racing?
Well, I didn't think that it was going to be quite that dramatic. I had told my wife the night before when we went the 570, 249, and of course Gary had went the 569.
And you're battling for the World Championship.
We were battling for the championship. That the stage was set for a very dramatic day, and we went back to the motel that night and put the high compression engine in the car. Of course, you know, as the well-laid plans of mice and men off go astray, you know, it could have blown right up. But as it was, it didn't. It made the run, and it was a run that stood for an awfully long time.
And after those 7 years, I remember the night the record was broken. It was the Summer Nationals in Englishtown, New Jersey, Paul Candise's car with Mark Oswald driving. When Candice saw the number on the scoreboard, he said, "Oh, no, Big Daddy's going to be mad at me when he hears about this." And I said, "Paul, wherever he is, a little tremor just went through him. He knows."
Well, I knew the record was going to be broken. Several people had actually done half of it. You know, they just were not able to back it up.
Jeb Allen did it and couldn't get the back up.
Exactly.
Let's go back a little bit. What records prior to this were particularly important to you?
Okay, let's go right back to the beginning. The first record that was really important was, of course, the 176.4 that Swamp Rat won.
Which Hot Rod Magazine really capitalized on.
Yeah, you know, and
Made you famous.
that was just unbelievable. Then, of course, we went 180 and 190, but that really wasn't like that first one. Then the next really big record for me was the 240-mile-an-hour time that I turned in one of the Winds Chargers later. And, of course, then the sport struggled along for years and years in that 240 range. And we went 244 and 245, and there wasn't much made out of it. And really, you know, there had been a lot of runs at 249.30, but that 250 was kind of like a milestone in the sport. And so really, as it stands out in my mind, 3 times, the 250, the 240, and the 176.
How important to you was it to be the first to do that 250?
It really became an obsession with me, really. We were so close. We were knocking on the door at lots of tracks. Like I said, we had a lot of 248s, a lot of 249. Just couldn't get that thing over the hump. And I knew that the Ontario Motor Speedway was a real good place to do it because we went to 247 there in 1973, 2 years earlier. And I really wanted that badly. And of course, Beck was right there too. You know, he had run a lot of 248s, and he was plenty capable of running at 250 miles an hour. So I really wanted to be the first over it.
You mentioned the high compression engine. Were there any other tricks in the car that day that made those times possible?
Yeah, it had the 370 gears in it, and I don't think anybody was running 370 gears. They were all running the 390 gears for elapsed time, and that kind of shut you off about 246, 247 for the size of tire. And then there was one other thing. When we were at Indianapolis, prior to that, when we'd won Indy, we had a set of tires mounted up there, our backup tires, and they were an exceptionally large set. They come through that way occasionally. And we had set that set of tires aside for Ontario to give us the gear ratio that we need. Because, see, we weren't running tires anywhere near the size we're running today. And so a larger tire was very important for us.
But really, that's what makes it so incredible. The tires were getting bigger and bigger, better and better, and still, they couldn't touch that time.
Yeah, well, there was a lot to do with that. You know, the track was perfect. They sprayed them a little differently then. They had a guy that was spraying it, and he was just sloshing the VHT on there several days before. And those tracks were extremely sticky. And, of course, the weather conditions were right. Bowers had made me a real nice blower, and it turned out just right. You know, and as anyone will tell you, even today, one blower has like a fingerprint. There's no two of them alike. And so I had a real good blower. I had a good high compression engine. It was really nice, and I had a good tire, and I had the right gear ratio. And there was another thing I'd like to plug in there. I made the burnout, you know. Prior to that, I had flipped the coins for lane choice, and I lost the choice for lane. And so the guy was going to time trial, was in the time trials. He took the good lane that my lane had just been oiled down. So I make the burnout, and I go out there, and I look outside the car, and it's all just white everywhere.
Grease sweep?
Yeah, it looked like grease sweep. And I just was shaking my head. So I go back to they push me back, and I'm shaking my head no to the crew. This is before reversers. And I sat there a few moments and I don't know whether to run or not. Of course, it's building up more heat, which is good for it. Finally, I opted to run, and it went right out across that rice ash and carrying the front wheels. I couldn't believe it. And so somebody says to me later, said, "Where did you get the traction for that run?" And I said, "Well," I said a little prayer prior to the run, and I guess it was the hand of God just pushed it down to the pavement. Steve, this is the 1978 car. And you notice it's blue and white. It originally was supposed to have a major Navy sponsorship, and they were going to paint the signs on it, Pomona. And also, this is the first car that I had the cross on.
The first time you publicly expressed your religious beliefs.
Yes. And this car ran its entire career without major sponsorship and was the highest money winner of all time for any of my cars. It won $606,000 and won 24 national events out of 30 stars. Now, of course, that includes all three associations.
And that prompted some of the wiseacre racers to say God was your sponsor. You'd gone above for a sponsor.
Right. Big Daddy in the sky. They jived at me.
Don, you accepted Christ in grammar school and have been a Christian all of that time, a practicing Christian. Why was it as late as 78 before you expressed that faith on a race car?
Well, why the 78, I don't really know, but I was just out in my garage one night and the car was white, and something just told me to put a cross on the cow for all the things that the Lord had done for me. And to take you back a little bit further to understand what I really mean by that statement, when I was in the hospital in Long Beach in 1970 and my foot had been blown off, I didn't want to take any pain medicine because I know how it retards the healing. And I was just racked with pain, and I just cried out to the Lord to help me. And all of a sudden, this real warm thing just came all around my body, and I didn't have any more pain. And I just knew that the Lord had helped me. And so I feel like I owed him a lot for that. It just took a long time getting around to pay him.
Yeah, your family has always been more important to you than racing over anything else. And I remember years ago when the girls were little, there were a lot of races and Pat was always there, but still you maintained a good home life and environment for those girls.
Well, I've always been a homebody, so to speak. I love my family, and I like being around them. Now the girls are gone. It's great when they come and visit, and of course I still have my same wife after 32 years.
And one of your daughters is an accomplished pianist.
Yes, she is. She is.
That's Galen?
Galen, and she's 25 years old now, and she's married, lives in Tallahassee. Her husband own their own home, and she teaches piano, has her master's in piano performance.
She was doing recitals at 13, 14?
She surely was. In fact, her first piano, her Steinway, was... she got it. She tricked me into it. She said, "If I win this recital, can I have a Steinway?" And I didn't even know what a Steinway was. And I soon found out. Anyway, she was playing against these older children, and I didn't think there was really any chance. She was 13, and the other children were 17, 18 years old, and she won the contest, and she got her Steinway.
I talked to Pat this morning, and I said, when you conceived the museum, did you think it was going to be this much work? She said, never gave it a thought.
No, she's been, from the time we opened our first shop, back over in the case, you saw that book with the handwriting, the ledger. That's Pat's ledger from the very first day of operation of our garage on Nebraska Avenue in 1956.
You know, you're such a mellow guy, Don, enjoying this day with us, but I've seen you at the end of the racetrack not quite so mellow. There's a temper inside you.
Yeah, it used to be a lot more violent than it is now, and I took a lot more things real serious, things that shouldn't have been taken quite so serious, such as winning or losing a particular race. You know, there'll always be another race, but you know, there'll never be another Connie Coletta for your friend, or another Richard Tharp, or, you know, these are one-time deals, and those are the most important things to me now, my friends, and not particularly a given race. I like to win, don't misunderstand me, and I love the fans clapping and cheering, but I've come in the years to learn that the friends are the best.
I've heard you on numerous occasions, one time as a color commentator on Wide World of Sports with Keith Jackson, make the analogy of the gunfighter, that you're like the old gunfighter in the West, and every new kid on the dusty street wants to take a shot at you.
That's true. They once did a cartoon about that back in drag cartoons when Connie Swingle outran me at that Mickey Thompson meet at Fontana. They did the whole thing on that, and then he won the race, and his kid says, "Slap leather, partner." He was the new guy they were shooting for. But that's the truth. It's very similar that everybody wants to take a shot at you because they feel if you know, they'll get the publicity from that, or the notoriety, whatever you want to call it, or maybe just the urge to go on.
Building their reputation.
Exactly.
At your expense.
Yeah.
No, you mentioned some names. Let me bounce some names off of you for just a quick reaction, okay, of people you've raced or raced for. Don Prudhomme.
Oh yeah, very famous drag racer, and you know, a lot of people, they just think of Don in the funny car, but Don ran the field dragsters for many, many years. In fact, Tommy Ivo got Don Prudhomme started into racing.
You friends with Don?
Yes, I am.
I know he worships you. He loves to tell Don Garlits stories.
I'm very seldom ever making a run that I don't look around up on the starting line. Don's up there if he's at the racetrack.
Tom McEwen.
And that goes way, way back. First time I ever saw Tom McEwen, he outran Swingle and I at Bakersfield, and they had that short car. It was fantastic. And it wasn't even a Hemi. We couldn't believe that a Oldsmobile had actually outrun us.
A guy you've had a lot of run-ins with on and off the racetrack, Gary Beck.
Yeah, Gary Beck is, you know, to my way of thinking, he's one of the strongest competitors in the sport. They've got the money, he's got the talent, he's got the experience. He can run good. I mean, he may not be running good at this exact race that he was just at, but yeah, you can watch for Gary Beck to do very well. He's made an awful lot of firsts, and he was the first into the 560s, you know. And
in the 540s and 50s and 30s.
He's tough.
Okay, NHRA founder, Wally Parks.
Well, you know, that's the man probably that we owe, all of us owe a lot to, because he took us, which wasn't even a sport, it was just a bunch of guys racing on the street. And he's been thrown a lot of darts at. I've done my own share of that, coming up through the ranks, but you know, he has made the sport what it is today. It was his thinking, his innovative thinking, and staying with it, the word like hot rod and drag racing, which everybody said he should change it, you know, because that was a bad word, but he stayed with it, and he believed in it. He believed in the people who were in it, and he's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt what just, never giving up will do.
Oh yeah, he's a strong-willed man.
Yes, he is. He is really strong-willed, and of course that's just exactly what it took to make drag racing what it is today.
Maybe why you and he butted heads occasionally too. You're both of that fiber.
That's true, and I think that some of those things might have been good for the sport. They started controversy and got writers writing about things when the sport was kind of getting in the doldrums, you know, and that big controversy started, and it always ended up for the good in the end.
And saving in some ways the best for last, a lady that you've really had some battles with, Shirley Muldowney.
Well, now there's a lady that is really a racer. You know, she's the only woman that ever won an automobile world championship in any kind of racing, and not only won it once, she won it 3 times. She set lots of records. She cut the men no quarter whatsoever, and won fair and square. You know, no handicaps, no funny weight deals, no head starts, nothing, just straight heads up racing. And because of her being a woman, it was a tremendous boost for the sport.
I really shouldn't be out here. I'm 52 years old and I really don't have the parts, but I'm having a heck of a good time. And of course, we orchestrated this race the best we could. You know, when I saw I was 14 and she was 6, I didn't make any more runs. I had one more run coming, but I just thought, boy, that would really make a dramatic first round. And so here it is. It's all set, like they wrote it in Hollywood and brought it here and produced it.
Shirley, you and Don Garlits have been going at it kind of hammer and tong the last few months.
We've raced more this season than we have in the last 5 years. So I think it's good he's back. I think his fans appreciate it, and it adds to the class. So I think it's good.
She always felt that you never totally accepted her.
She's wrong about that. I was all for her. I was for her from the beginning. When they wanted to not give her license, I signed her license. When they wanted to weight her car, to make her car as heavy, she only weighed 90 pounds, I was always against that. And they never got that rule through till I didn't run NHRA, if you remember correctly. So I always wanted her to run exactly the way we always wanted to run, just whatever you brung, you know.
But you still had a lot of fights.
We did. We had a lot of controversial confrontations because, well, you know, she outran me a lot and I outran her a lot. So neither one of us liked that too much. We were both highly competitive, and I never wanted to lose to her, and she never wanted to lose to me. But we had a lot of good match races. It was a match race, you know, that would pack the house.
It was a real thing.
Yes, sir. There was nobody laying down and giving up playing dead dog when we raced. And, you know, the Tommy Ivo match race thing, that people got to thinking, even though that never happened, they just kind of thought that because in the final days, you know, Tommy didn't want to run the cars.
That was a wrestling match, you know.
Exactly.
Scripted.
But we've had to put the pistons in and change the engines and everything when we race Shirley. And of course, like I say, her being a woman, it got us coverage in women's sections of the newspapers and magazines and front sections of
and a motion picture.
And finally, the final epitome of it all was they did the Heart Like a Wheel, which has, even though it's about Shirley, just the 15 minutes that I had in it has been tremendous for me.
Don, it's just incredible how many cars you've built and how many races you've won, evidenced by the wall of trophies. Can you even describe what it's like to win the big race?
Well, you know, it's a hard thing to do. It's an excitement that reaches a pitch like the '84 Indy race, and it wasn't any different for that one than the '64 Indy race or the '63 Winter Nationals. It's just it's almost like you're living a dream each time. You say this couldn't possibly be happening to me, but it is. You're actually experiencing it, and that's kind of hard to explain.
You and I have been fortunate to spend a lot of time together in those winner's circles, and some people yell and holler and spray the champagne. You seem to calm down.
Yeah, because on top of all of the excitement, there's a tremendous amount of pressure to get to that point, and it's almost like a giant weight is lifted off of me. And I've been on such a high, running on pure adrenaline. It's just kind of like it's a quiet time, and I'm kind of glad it's over in a way.
World champion, a lot of those. More event victories in NHRA than any other top fuel driver. More records, certainly, than all the rest of the racers combined. Is there a goal unfulfilled in drag racing?
I haven't really set any big goals for myself, like I'd like to do this before I quit or that. I mean, I would like to go 270 miles an hour. I'd like to be the first. Well, that's really kind of a short-range goal. I don't think it's that far away. This museum was a big goal for me. This is a goal that's been in my mind now for nearly 10 years. And so I'm just kind of coming out of this. I'm on that quiet time now, it's the pressure's off, the thing is here. And my schedule is cut way down. I'm just running the NHRA events, and I like that. My goal is just to do as good as I can in the NHRA circuit for the remainder of my racing days. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do any more match racing or running any circuits or anything. I want to run that Winston World Championship Series and try to be number one if I can.
Killer instinct still there?
Yeah, I still like to win the races. When I strap in, I want to beat them no matter what.
I've been to a lot of automobile museums, and none of them has ever talked to me like this one does, and I think every drag racing fan feels that way. On behalf of all of them, thank you for saving all of this for all of us.
My pleasure, Steve. I've got a mind that's inquisitive. I like to know what's going on around me, my environment, the people, what makes things tick. I question everything. Just because something's been done a certain way over a long period of time is not necessarily, in my mind, the right way to do it. Of course, that's helped me in the racing for sure.
In March of 1985, when we taped Garlits the Legend, Big Daddy told us that breaking the 270-mile-an-hour barrier was a short-term goal, not that far away. Well, he proved to be absolutely right, because in March of 1986, he went just a few miles up the road to Gainesville Raceway, the NHRA Gator Nationals. Many felt that Big Daddy had built Swamp Rat 30 for the sole purpose of going 270 miles an hour. Not true. He expected to go 280 miles an hour with this car. Garlits says with that shape, he's going to punch a hole in the wind and drive right through it. And it's made possible by little bitty 13-inch front wheels that he had specially made, and they don't even have a tire on them. It's like a V-belt off an industrial air compressor with some liquid rubber painted on so it has enough traction to steer. Wife Pat took a look at this and she said, only one thing, we got to call it rat under glass. Big Daddy qualified the brand new Swamp Rat car in the number 1 position at 5.40 seconds. In the second round of eliminations, he faced off with Joe Amato, himself a former world champion. But heavy on Big Daddy's mind, will those belts stay on those front wheels? They seem to be coming off on deceleration. In other words, when the parachute comes out. So down the quarter-mile course, they should not be a problem. Snuggled safely in the new canopied compartment was Big Daddy. In the semifinal round, it was the king of the drag strips, Big Daddy Don Garlits, versus the former king of the gridiron, retired NFL quarterback Dan Pastorini. Now Garlits, on the PA system, had told the crowd, "I'm sorry, I can't run the 270 for you. We've got problems with these new belts. We've got to come up with a better tire. I just hope to win the race." Garlits wins it, and the crowd goes crazy because on the scoreboard, 272.56 miles an hour, low elapsed time as well, and this partisan crowd loves every minute of it. Dan Pastorini forced Big Daddy to break the 270-mile-an-hour barrier. You can hear him in the background. The crew says it. You punched a hole in the air. You drive right through it. 272.
Oh, my God. Too fast for the record.
Too fast for those bands on those real wheels.
Yeah, we got to have some real tires up on the front of this thing.
You know, I heard you say to your crew, I'm not going to try the 270. That's over with for this race. There it was.
Well, it's just running good. You know, you can't hardly help yourself. You basically tune, and we're taking nitro out of it. It's just that it's so slick.
The concept obviously works.
Yes, it's the design of the future. There's no question about it. We'll have the tire thing fixed. We've already got tires. We got some little airplane tires that's going to do the job just nice.
Oh, by the way, you ran low ET as well, a quicker 540.
Great. Okay.
Big Daddy, the fastest man in the world of drag racing.
To make the record official, NHRA requires that you back up that 272-mile-an-hour run within 1%, and there's only one more round in which Big Daddy can do it. Not to mention trying to beat Dick LaHaye for the Gator Nationals title. But all eyes were on Big Daddy. Could he win the Gator Nationals for the 5th time? Could he back up that 272-mile-an-hour record?
Everything went right, the record, the whole deal.
Yeah, wouldn't we turn?
Not quite enough to back up the record, but believe me, everyone acknowledges you were the first to go 270.
Really, it's been quite a day.
And I noticed there's some scars on the canopy there.
It's nice to have that there. A piece of that belt came back with the fiberglass and hit it pretty hard.
I have a feeling that's the last time we'll see the belts on the front end of this car.
You can bet on that.